Greetings, Lawmasters. Tonight our chronicle covers the most lethal, frustrating and bone-crushing adversaries that the province of Skyrim has to offer. We aren't just talking about the bandits you swat away like flies on the road to Riverwood. We're talking about the creatures that made you pause the game, take a deep breath, and question your entire character build. We're trekking through the deepest snows, the darkest crypts, and the most twisted plains of oblivion to rank the 15 deadliest enemies found in the Fourth Era. Let's be honest, you probably wouldn't survive a trip to Cold Harbour without some serious enchanted gear and a pocket full of cheese wheels. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, why not drop a comment below telling me where you're listening from and what time it is in your corner of the world. I always love imagining these stories drifting across the globe. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The wind howls down from the throat of the world, carrying with it the scent of pine needles, ancient stone and something copper sharp, the smell of old blood. Our journey begins not in the endgame, where the Dragonborn is clad in Daedric armour and wielding weapons that can shatter mountains, but rather in the early days. It begins with a humble pilgrimage. We find ourselves in the sleepy village of Ivarstead, sitting at the base of the 7,000 steps. The air is crisp here, lacking the humidity of the rift, promising the bitter chill of high altitude. An adventurer, fresh from the realization of their destiny, looks up at the mountain. The greybeards have summoned them. It feels like a momentous occasion, a spiritual ascent. The adventurer adjusts the iron straps on their leather armour. It's flimsy protection, really, but it has served well enough against the skeevers and the restless dead of Bleakfall's Barrow. The climb starts peacefully enough. The stone steps are worn smooth by centuries of pilgrims, monks and goats. Snow begins to fall, light at first, dusting the shoulders of the traveller, then thickening into a white curtain that obscures the view of the valley below. There are wolves, of course. There are always wolves in Skyrim. They lunge from the underbrush with snarls that sound more like desperate coughs, easily dispatched with a few swings of steel. The adventurer feels confident, strong. They are the Dovahkiin after all. But as the elevation climbs, the temperature plummets. The trees grow sparse, twisted into gnarled shapes by the relentless wind. The path narrows, winding between sheer cliff faces and drops that disappear into white fog. And then, just past a stone tablet etched with the history of the dragons and the voice of Cain, the path levels out into a narrow gorge. It is a choke point, a natural ambush site. There is a sound distinct from the wind, a heavy wet sniffing, a grunt that vibrates in the chest of anyone foolish enough to be this high up without proper preparation. From a ledge above the path, a massive shape drops down. It lands with a thud that shakes the snow from the nearby rocks. It stands on two legs but hunches forward, its knuckles grazing the ice. It is a frost troll. To the uninitiated, it looks like a nightmare ape, skinned and left to freeze. Its fur is matted and white, blending perfectly with the blizzard, but its skin is a raw, angry red. Muscles ripple beneath that hide like coiled snakes, but it's the face that freezes the blood. 3 black, bead-like eyes staring with zero intelligence, only predatory malice. A mouth full of jagged yellow tusks opens to let out a roar that echoes off the mountainside. This specific frost troll, the guardian of the High Hrothgar path, is arguably the first true reality check for any player in Skyrim. It acts as a gatekeeper, a brutal exam to see if you have actually learned anything about combat, or if you've just been button-mashing your way through the province. The adventurer raises a shield, trembling slightly. The troll charges. It doesn't use weapons, it doesn't need them. It swings a massive clawed arm. The impact is devastating. It's not a clean cut, it's a bludgeoning trauma. The shield splinters. The adventurer staggers back, health bar flashing red, panic setting in. They scramble for a potion, fumbling with the cork, the liquid spilling over their chin. They manage to land a strike, a solid hit with a sword right across the troll's chest. A wound opens, dark blood spilling onto the snow, but then the horror sets in. As the adventurer backs away to recover stamina, they watch the wound on the troll's chest knit itself back together. The flesh ripples and closes, the blood stops flowing. The frost troll's health bar refills, ticking up and up and up. It is regenerating. This is the biological nightmare of the troll species. Their metabolism is hyperactive, a trait discussed at length in the in-game book Troll Slaying, penned by the bard Finn. Finn writes with a certain jaunty optimism that likely got many readers killed, suggesting that while trolls are formidable, their greatest weakness is fire. Kill it with fire is the age-old advice. The adventurer, remembering this, might frantically switch to a flame spell, shooting a pathetic stream of fire from their left hand. The troll recoils, screeching. The fire halts the regeneration, cauterizing the wounds instantly. But at low levels, magicka burns out fast. The fire stream sputters and dies. The troll recovers. It lunges again. There is a sickening crunch. The screen spins. The last thing the adventurer sees is the three-eyed face looming over them, and the reload screen appearing with a helpful tip about armor ratings. Lore-wise, frost trolls are fascinatingly primitive yet enduring. Unlike the giants, who have a culture of mammoth herding and cheese-making, trolls seem driven purely by hunger and territorial aggression. They're found in the highest peaks and the deepest ice caves, often co-opting the lairs of other creatures. The specific placement of this troll on the path to High Hrothgar has actually sparked a bit of a debate among the community for years. Some fans theorise that the Greybeards, despite their pacifism, knowingly allow the troll to live there. It serves as a test of the Dragonborn's Thuum, or at least their resolve. If the Chosen One cannot get past a single troll, what hope do they have against Alduin, the World Eater? It's a DPS check engineered by the monks. Others believe it's just the harsh reality of Kain's domain. Nature in Skyrim does not care about your quest markers. The encounter is visceral because it feels unfair. The jump in difficulty from the wolves and bandits at the base of the mountain to this monstrosity is steep. It teaches you to use the terrain. Maybe you run past it, sprinting until your stamina drains. Praying Lydia or whatever poor follower you dragged along will distract it long enough for you to reach the doors of the monastery. Maybe you exploit the paything, standing on a rock where the troll can't reach, raining arrows down slowly, chipping away at that regenerating health pool pixel by pixel. We've all done it. There's no shame in cheese when you're facing a creature that can smack you into the stratosphere. There is also an obscure, darker connection here to the Udafricta, in the lore carried over from Morrowind's Blood Moon expansion and Oblivion. The Udafricta is a unique, legendary troll matriarch line known for terrorizing settlements. While the High Hrothgar troll isn't explicitly an Udafricta, its sheer power and placement echo the legends of those monster trolls. It reminds us that in the hierarchy of Skyrim's predators, the humanoid races are fairly low on the food chain without their tools and magic. Eventually the adventurer returns. Maybe they have leveled up. Maybe they bought a scroll of fireball. Maybe they just learned to dodge. The second fight is a dance of desperation. The wind is still howling, masking the sounds of footfalls. The troll swings, the adventurer sidesteps. The sword flashes, coated in a poison harvested from frostbite spiders. The fire spell flares, illuminating the whiteout conditions with a burst of orange. The smell of singed fur mixes with the cold air. When the beast finally falls, it doesn't die gracefully. It slumps forward, a heavy, meaty collapse. The silence that follows is deafening. The wind rushes back in to fill the void where the roaring was. Looting the corpse yields only troll fat, a gruesome alchemical ingredient used ironically to make potions of Fortify Two-Handed, implying that consuming the essence of the beast grants you its strength. The adventurer stands over the slain monster, breath pluming in the air, adrenaline slowly fading into the dull ache of bruised ribs. They look up the path. The grey stone walls of High Hrothgar loom ahead, ancient and silent. They have passed the trial. They have slain the gatekeeper. But as they sheath their weapon, a thought lingers in the back of their mind. If this is just a random encounter on the road, what is waiting in the dark places where the sun never touches? The frost troll is deadly not because it is the strongest enemy in the game, far from it, but because it is the first enemy that demands respect. It breaks the power fantasy of the early game and forces the player to acknowledge the harshness of the province. It is a biological machine built for the cold and regenerating engine of violence that guards the threshold to power. And as the snow begins to cover the carcass, hiding the red stains, the adventurer moves on, stepping over the threshold, leaving the natural world behind for something far more supernatural. But even as we leave the mountain slopes, we must remember that sheer brute strength comes in many forms in Skyrim. While the troll relies on biological regeneration and feral rage, there are others who rely on size, physics, and a very specific relationship with the moons. As we descend from the throat of the world and head out into the tundra of Whiterun Hold, the ground begins to shake again. Not from the roar of a beast, but from the rhythmic thundering footsteps of something much, much larger. The tundra of Whiterun is a deceptive place. It looks open, vast, and relatively safe. The golden grass sways in the wind, mud crabs click along the riverbanks, and elk graze peacefully in the distance. But any seasoned adventurer knows that this pastoral beauty is shared by the undisputed landlords of the plains. We are, of course, talking about the giants. If the frost troll is the gatekeeper of the mountains, the giant is the king of the lowlands. Towering at roughly 11 to 12 feet tall, these humanoids are a sight to behold. They have a primitive majesty about them, clad in furs decorated with spinal columns and mammoth tusks, their skin a weathered grey, scarred by a life lived entirely under the open sky. They are the herders of the mammoths, guiding these colossal beasts from grazing spot to grazing spot with a gentleness that belies their immense strength. You usually hear them before you see them. The deep rumbling lowing of a mammoth often precedes the rhythmic thudding of giant footsteps, or perhaps you see the icon on your compass first, a mammoth skull marking one of their camps like Bleakwind Basin or Secunda's Kiss. These camps are almost cozy in a primal way. A massive bonfire roars in the centre, roasting a skeever or perhaps a whole leg of something. There are chests filled with gold, pelts, and inevitably vast quantities of cheese. Giants love cheese. It's one of those weird, charming details of Skyrim lore. They curdle mammoth milk in giant bowls, creating that curiously swirled mammoth cheese bowl you can steal, at your own peril. But let's talk about the danger. The giants are largely passive. You can walk quite close to a camp and the giant will simply watch you, weapon resting on his shoulder, issuing a low, warning grunt and waving a massive hand as if shooing a fly. It's a polite warning. Back off, little one. The danger comes when you ignore this warning, or worse, when you accidentally hit a mammoth with a stray arrow. When a giant turns hostile, the atmosphere changes instantly. The calm herder vanishes, replaced by a juggernaut of rage. He raises his weapon, usually a club made from stone and bone, or sometimes just a massive tree branch with a rock tied to it. The wind-up is slow, almost telegraphing the move. You think, I can dodge that. Maybe you can, but if you don't? The impact of a giant's club is the stuff of Skyrim legend. It is not just a hit, it is a physics event. Upon contact, the Dragonborn isn't just knocked down. Due to a quirks in the game's physics engine that Bethesda lovingly decided to keep as a feature, the overflow of damage translates into vertical velocity. The screen blurs, the sound of wind rushes past your ears, and suddenly you're looking down at the map of Skyrim from the stratosphere. You can see Whiterun, the throat of the world, maybe even the coast of Solitude, all while your ragdolled body cartwheels through the clouds. It is the Skyrim space program, the most humiliating and hilarious way to die in the game, but beyond the memes, giants are genuinely deadly. Their ground stomp sends a shockwave that staggers you, breaking your block and leaving you open to that fatal club swing. They move faster than they look, their long strides closing the distance while you're sprinting away in terror. And they are rarely alone. Anger a giant, and you often anger his mammoths too. Now you have a 12-foot titan chasing you, flanked by 2 woolly tanks that can trample you into paste. Lore-wise, giants are a tragic, enigmatic race. They share a common ancestry with the Nords, both descending from the Atmorans who migrated from the north. While the Nords evolved, or perhaps devolved, depending on who you ask, into smaller civilization-building humans, the giants remained true to the old ways. They have no written language, but they have art. If you look closely at the rocks around their camps, you will see spiral patterns painted in mammoth fat and dye. This suggests a deep spiritual connection to the land or the cosmos, perhaps worship of the moons Massa and Secunda. There is a fascinating, obscure lore tidbit involving the giant's toe. Alchemists prize these severed digits highly. Mixing a giant's toe with wheat creates a potion of fortify health that is disproportionately valuable, causing your alchemy skill to skyrocket. This has led to the grim reality that the Dragonborn is often the greatest threat to giant populations, hunting these peaceful herders just to grind skill levels. It casts the player as the villain, slaughtering the last remnants of an ancient silent culture just to make a quick septim. The community has long debated the intelligence of giants. Are they just beasts, or are they sentient beings capable of trade and diplomacy? There is a specific random encounter where a farmer is seen leading a painted cow toward a giant camp. If you speak to him, he explains it's a peace offering to keep the giants away from his livestock. If you follow him, you see the giant accept the cow and the farmer leaves unharmed. This proves a level of understanding and transactional logic. They aren't monsters, they are neighbours who just want their boundaries respected. Fighting a giant is a lesson in spacing and stamina management. Unlike the troll, you can't out-heal a giant's damage because one hit usually kills you instantly at lower to mid levels. You have to kite. You shoot arrows, run, shoot again. You lead them over rocky terrain where their pathing gets confused. Or, if you are a mage, you use the impact perk to stun lock them with firebolts, feeling a cruel sense of power as the great beast stumbles, unable to close the gap. Yet, there is a sadness to killing a giant. When they die, they don't roar in defiance. They often let out a low, mournful groan, dropping to their knees before collapsing. The mammoths will sometimes linger by the body of their fallen shepherd, trumpeting in distress. It's a moment that makes the world of Skyrim feel alive and complex. You haven't just cleared a dungeon, you've disrupted an ecosystem. One of the most harrowing giant encounters isn't even a fight, it's stumbling upon the location known as the Talking Stone Camp, or perhaps a random unmarked peak, and seeing a giant mourning over a dead mammoth. He stands there, head bowed, weapon on the ground, just staring at the carcass. If you approach, he might not even attack, too consumed by grief to care about a tiny adventurer. It's a quiet, heartbreaking scene that adds depth to these deadliest of enemies. But we cannot linger in the sympathy of the sunlit tundra forever. The night is falling, and the temperature is dropping again. As we move from the physical threat of the giants, we must prepare for a threat that is far more insidious. A threat that does not crush your bones, but freezes your soul. We're heading into the misty snow-blind peaks and the ruins where the veil between the living and the dead is thin. We are hunting for something that many believe is just a ghost story, until the frostbite sets in and the pale lights begin to dance. The wind shifts as we leave the giants' campfires behind. We're moving away from the warmth of the fire and the smell of roasting meat, climbing higher into the desolate reaches of the Pale, or perhaps venturing deep into the labyrinthine ruins of Labyrinthian. The air here isn't just cold, it's stagnant, heavy with a silence that feels unnatural. The snow doesn't crunch underfoot so much as it swallows the sound, and then you see them. 3 small glowing balls of light. Wisps. They dance playfully, swirling around trees or pillars, leading you deeper into the mist. They seem harmless, almost whimsical, like fireflies in the winter. But any veteran of Skyrim knows that these lights are not guides, they are lures. Following them is a death sentence, for they are the children, the extensions of the Wisp Mother. The Wisp Mother is a creature of terrifying elegance. Unlike the brutish troll or the earthy giant, she is a being of ethereal horror. She floats above the ground, her form translucent, draped in tattered, ghostly robes that billow in a non-existent wind. Her skin is a pale, deathly blue, and her face is a mask of serene malice. She does not roar. She does not stomp. She simply glides, and the world freezes around her. Encountering a Wisp Mother is a chaotic, frantic experience. She is rarely alone. The wisps that led you to her act as life-draining parasites, latching onto you and sapping your vitality to feed their mother. But the true danger is the Wisp Mother's mastery of frost magic. She doesn't just cast spells, she unleashes a blizzard. Ice spikes fly like machine gun fire, staggering you, slowing your movement speed to a crawl. And just when you think you have closed the distance to strike, she vanishes. She teleports, dissolving into mist and reforming behind you, or worse, splitting into multiple shades. Now, instead of one floating wraith, you're facing 3 or 4. They all look identical. They all cast frost magic. You swing your sword at one, and it passes through harmlessly. A phantom. Meanwhile, the real Wisp Mother is blasting you from the flank. It is a house of mirrors built of ice and death. The lore surrounding the Wisp Mother is fragmented and unsettling, making them one of the most mysterious entities in Tamriel. They are classified as necromagical beings, but they don't fit the standard profile of undead like skeletons or vampires. The Legend of the Pale Lady, a book you can find in-game, suggests they are ghost-like spirits of ancient snow elf women, twisted by vengeance and forgotten magics. Other theories, often discussed by the scholars at the College of Winterhold and Reddit, propose they are elemental manifestations of Nirn itself, spirits of snow and frost that have taken humanoid shape to defend their territory. But there is an even more obscure theory, rooted in the text Wisp Mother, which posits that they are lich-like beings, sorceresses who developed a method of eternal life different from the dragon priests. Instead of binding their souls to a phylactery or a mask, they dissolve their physical forms into pure magicka and frost, becoming one with the environment. This explains their mastery over the wisps. They aren't summoning creatures, they are manipulating fragments of their own shattered souls. The Pale Lady quest at Frostmere Crypt offers the most direct interaction with a named Wisp Mother. Here, the creature is bound by a cursed sword. The bandit leader, Draugr, steals the sword, driven mad by the Wisp Mother's whispers in his head. When you finally confront her, it's not just a monster fight, it's an exorcism. You're fighting a being that can dominate minds and twist reality. Combat with a Wisp Mother requires strategy or overwhelming firepower. Fire is naturally effective, but good luck hitting a teleporting target that is constantly slowing you down with frost effects. The slow debuff is the real killer here. In Skyrim, mobility is life. When your sprint turns into a lethargic jog, you're easy pickings for her Ice Storm spell, a swirling vortex of cold that moves slowly but hits multiple times, shredding health bars in seconds. And let's not forget the environment. Wisp Mothers are almost always found in places that are already hazardous. The snowy peaks where you can fall to your death, or ruins filled with traps. Fighting one often means managing your stamina, watching your footing, and frantically drinking potions of resist frost, all while trying to figure out which of the 3 ghosts attacking you is the one that can actually die. There is something deeply unnerving about the sound design during a Wisp Mother encounter. There is no battle music overture, no guttural taunts, just the whistling of the wind, the crackle of ice, and a strange, high-pitched humming sound that seems to drill into your skull. It creates a sense of isolation. You feel truly alone against something that belongs to a world you don't understand. When a Wisp Mother finally falls, she doesn't leave a corpse. She dissolves into a pile of wisp wrappings and glow dust. These ingredients are rare and valuable, used for potions of invisibility and resist magic. It's a fitting end. The creature of mist and illusion leaves behind only the dust of her glamour, but the silence she leaves behind is different from the giants. It's not a mournful silence, it's a relieved one. The air feels a little warmer. The oppression lifts. You loot the dust, check your frostbitten extremities, and move on, vowing to never follow a pretty light in the woods again. Yet, as we descend from the surface, leaving the open skies and the biting wind, we find that the dark, damp places of Skyrim hold terrors that make the Wisp Mother seem almost benevolent. We're going down, past the root systems of the great pines, past the buried Nord crypts, deep into the crust of the world. We're heading to Blackreach, the subterranean fungal forest that connects the ancient Dwemer cities, and there, in the glowing gloom, we will find a tragedy that has sharpened its teeth and put on armour. The elevator ride down to Blackreach takes a long time. The gears grind, the steam hisses, and the light from the surface world fades away, replaced by the bioluminescent glow of giant mushrooms and the hum of Ethereal geodes. Blackreach is a world within a world, a sprawling cavern so vast it has its own weather system. It is beautiful, alien, and hauntingly silent, until you hear the chittering. We are all familiar with the Falmer, the hunched, blind, goblin-like creatures that infest every Dwemer ruin. They're annoying, sure. They poison you, they swarm you, and they keep Carius as pets, which is a whole other level of gross. But deep in these caverns and in the high-level expansions of the game, you encounter their kingpins, the Falmer Warmongers. If a standard Falmer is a feral dog, the Warmonger is a trained soldier in full-plate mail. They are the elite shock troops of the betrayed, and they represent the terrifying evolution of their species. While the lower caste Falmer wear chitin armour made from the shells of their insect livestock, Warmongers are often clad in heavy Falmer armour, a hardened, chitinous plate that rivals ebony in its defensive rating. Some even wear actual ebony armour or Dwemer scraps they've scavenged and repurposed. But it's not just the armour, it's the aggression. A Warmonger doesn't just poke at you with a shiv. They wield high-level weapons, honed swords, war axes, and powerful bows firing poisoned arrows with sniper-like accuracy. They are tanky, fast, and hit like a freight train. The true horror of the Warmonger, however, lies in what they represent. To understand why they're so deadly, you have to understand the tragedy of the Snow Elves. Once a proud, magical race that rivaled the High Elves of Somerset, they were driven to the brink of extinction by the Nords. Desperate, they sought refuge with the Dwemer, the dwarves. The Dwemer agreed to take them in, but at a terrible price. The blinding of the entire race. The Snow Elves were fed toxic fungi, enslaved, and twisted over centuries into the Falmer. The Warmongers are the twisted result of centuries of underground warfare. They have regained a semblance of martial discipline. They organise raids. They command the lesser Falmer. They're not just surviving, they are thriving in the dark, waiting for the day they can reclaim the surface. One of the deadliest aspects of fighting a warmonger is their glitched out damage output, due to a bug, or perhaps a feature, in how the game calculates damage for certain high-level NPCs with the extra damage perk. Warmongers can sometimes deal double or triple the expected damage with a power attack. You might be at full health, feeling confident in your dragon plate armor, and suddenly, thwack, kill cam. You're dead. It's sudden, brutal, and frustratingly effective. And let's talk about their location. Blackreach's nightmare to navigate. It's dark, full of cliffs, and teeming with enemies. Fighting a warmonger often means fighting on a narrow bridge over a glowing abyss, or in a cramped Dwemer hallway where you can't maneuver. If you try to use stealth, good luck. While they are blind, their hearing is supernatural. A muffled footstep, the drawing of a bowstring, even the sound of an invisibility potion wearing off. They hear it all. And once they pinpoint you, they don't stop coming. There is a specific piece of environmental storytelling often found near warmongers, the torture racks. You'll find human and elven prisoners, or what's left of them, in their camps. This confirms that the Falmer aren't just defensive, they are actively kidnapping surface dwellers. They are dragging people down into the dark to enslave or eat them. The warmonger is the warden of this nightmare prison. Combat with a warmonger is a test of your burst damage. You cannot let the fight drag on. They have high health pools and often carry potions to heal themselves. You need to hit them hard and fast. Paralyzed spells are a godsend here. Watching a warmonger stiffen and tip over like a statue is immensely satisfying. Fusrodar is also a classic tactic, especially near those Blackreach cliffs. Yeeting a warmonger into the abyss is a valid if cheesy strategy, but perhaps the most chilling encounter is not in Blackreach, but in the Forgotten Vale from the Dawnguard DLC. Here you meet Knight Paladin Gelabor, one of the last two uncorrupted snow elves. He speaks of his betrayed brethren with pity and fear. Seeing a warmonger in the Vale, perhaps wearing a piece of ancient snow elf armour mixed with their savage chitin, bridges the gap between the noble race they were and the monsters they have become. It's a visual storytelling masterpiece that makes you hesitate just for a second before you swing your sword. That hesitation can get you killed. The Falmer Warmonger is a reminder that in the world of the Elder Scrolls, evolution isn't always upward. Sometimes you devolve into something stronger, crueler, and far more dangerous. They are the dark reflection of the Dragonborn. Powerful warriors rising from nothing, claiming their dominion through violence. As we leave the bioluminescent beauty of Blackreach and the tragedy of the Falmer behind, we ascend slightly, but not to the surface. We are heading into the dust-choked air of the Nordic Barrows. We're going to the places where the ancient dead do not sleep but wait. We're about to wake up the Draugr Death Overlord, and he has something very loud to say to us. We leave the alien glow of Blackreach and the chittering darkness of the Falmer behind, ascending back into the stone-hewn corridors of the ancient Nords. The air changes again. It becomes dry, smelling of linen wraps, embalming fluids, and centuries of undisturbed dust. We're in a Nordic barrow, Bleak Falls, Sarthal Forelhost. You know the drill: skeletons, pressure plates, puzzle doors with the claw keys you always forget to rotate. But deep in the bowels of these ruins, guarding the word walls and the highest tier loot chests, sleeps the Draugr Death Overlord. If the Falmer Warmonger is a frantic, scurrying nightmare, the Death Overlord is a monolith of dread. He does not hide. He does not skulk. He bursts from his sarcophagus with the sound like a tomb lid cracking, standing tall and terrifyingly broad. He's clad in full ebony armour, black metal that seems to absorb the torchlight. His eyes burn with that piercing electric blue light, the sign of the reanimated. The first thing you notice, right before the panic sets in, is his weapon. It is almost always an ebony weapon, honed to a razor edge. An ebony bow that can one-shot a mage, or a greatsword that can cleave a warrior in half, but the weapon in his hand is secondary to the weapon in his throat. The Draugr Death Overlord can shout. The screen blurs, the sound dampens, and then a wave of force slams into you. Vusroda. Suddenly, your camera is spinning. Your character is ragdolled across the room, smashing into a wall or tumbling down a flight of stone steps. But here is the kicker, the detail that has caused more rage quits than perhaps any other mechanic in Skyrim. When you are shouted down, you drop your weapon. You stand up, dazed, health bar chunked, and reach for your sword, only to realise your hands are empty. Your legendary Daedric greatsword of the vampire, the one you spent hours smithing and enchanting, is gone. It's lying somewhere in the dark clutter of the room, amidst the urns and the bones. And while you're frantically scanning the floor, searching for your weapon like a dropped contact lens, the Death Overlord is closing in, raising his ebony blade for the execution. This mechanic, the disarm shout, Zunhalvik, turns a standard boss fight into a chaotic scramble for survival. It forces you to open your inventory and equip that backup weapon you haven't used since level 10, maybe a rusted mace or a pickaxe. It strips you of your power fantasy and leaves you vulnerable and scrambling. Lore-wise, the Death Overlords are the highest-ranking members of the dragon cult. In life, they were likely high priests, generals, or favoured warlords of the dragons. They were buried with the utmost honours, their bodies preserved with the most potent magics to serve their dragon masters even in death. They are not mindless zombies like the lower-level restless dead. They retain their martial skills and their knowledge of the voice. There is a theory, supported by the in-game book amongst the Draugr, that the Draugr hierarchy is maintained even in death. The lower Draugr transfer their life force to the overlords to keep them sustained. This is why the overlords are so tanky. They have been feeding on the souls of their subordinates for thousands of years. They are batteries of necromantic energy. The setting of these fights adds to the lethality. You're usually in a boss room, a confined space with nowhere to run. The exit is blocked until you kill him. Often, he is not alone. He might have a retinue of high-level Draugr scourges or restless Draugr who swarm you while he hangs back and snipes you with arrows that stagger you. One of the most infamous encounters is in the ruin of Volskygge. At the summit, you face a dragon priest. More on them later. But getting there requires fighting through a gauntlet of death overlords. It is a brutal slog. The corridors are narrow, meaning you can't dodge the shouts, you just have to tank them. Fighting a death overlord requires preparation. You need stability. You need magic resistance. Spellbreaker, the Daedric shield that creates a ward, is incredible here, as it can block the shout if you time it right. Or you can fight fire with fire. Use your own Thuum. Ice form works wonders, freezing the giant in a block of ice and giving you precious seconds to heal or recover your dropped weapon. But there is a gritty satisfaction in these duels. It feels like a clash of eras, the modern Dragonborn versus the ancient champion, steel against ebony, Thuum against Thuum. When the Death Overlord finally falls, crumbling into dust and leaving behind his armour and weapons, it feels like you have truly conquered a piece of history. You loot the chest, learn the word of power from the wall, and step out into the sunlight, squinting against the glare, feeling the weight of the ages lifting off your shoulders. However, not all threats in Skyrim are undead or ancient. Some are very much alive, and driven by motives that are utterly alien to the average Nord. As we leave the dusty barrows and head west, towards the rocky, disease-ridden reach of the Reach, pun intended, we encounter a different kind of horror. We are looking for a man who has devoted his life to the Daedric Prince of Pestilence. We are looking for a teleporter. We are looking for Orchendor. Leaving the Draugr-infested crypts behind, we travel west to the Reach, a landscape of jagged crags, rushing rivers, and an omnipresent sense of unease. Here, amidst the forsworn insurgencies and the crumbling stone towers, lies the Dwemer ruin of Thardams. It is a massive, sprawling city of brass and steam, carved into the mountainside. But we aren't here for the machines. We are here on a job for one of the most underrated, yet disturbingly bureaucratic, Daedric princes, Periite, the Taskmaster, the Prince of Pestilence. Our target is Orchendor. To get to him, you first have to survive the dungeon itself. Thardams is widely considered one of the largest, longest, and most exhausting dungeons in the entire game. It is a marathon. You fight through wave after wave of the afflicted Breton refugees who have been blessed, or cursed, with Periite's disease. They are unsettling foes, their skin sickly and pale, rushing at you to vomit corrosive, bright green bile that sprays across the screen like a toxic fire hose. It's gross, it's effective, and it sets the tone for the filth you're wading into. After what feels like hours of descending through workshops, crossing massive bridges over subterranean lakes, and navigating the upper district and the lower district, you finally reach the Bethardam's Arcanex. Here, amidst the spinning gears and the hissing steam pipes, waits Orchendor. At first glance, he doesn't look like much. He is a wood elf, a bosmer, dressed in standard mage robes. He doesn't tower over you like a giant. He doesn't have the terrifying presence of a dragon priest. He looks like any other bandit hedge wizard you fried 100 times before. But then the fight starts, and you realise that Orchendor is arguably the hardest counter to a specific playstyle in all of Skyrim. If you are a pure mage, if you have spent the last 40 hours levelling destruction, investing perks in fire, frost and shock, feeling like a god of war, Orchendor is your worst nightmare. He possesses a unique innate ability, 100% resistance to magic, not 50%, not 85%, the usual cap for players, but total immunity. Your fireballs splash against him like warm water. Your lightning bolts fizzle. Your frost spikes shatter harmlessly. You can dual cast Incinerate until your magicka bar is empty, and his health bar will not move a single pixel. For a mage character who hasn't leveled up archery or one-handed, this moment is a brick wall. It forces a frantic panic. You have to summon Atronax, who deal physical damage, or Dremora lords to do the dirty work for you. Or, in a moment of desperate indignity, you have to equip that iron dagger you picked up for crafting and try to shank him to death while wearing cloth robes. But it's not just his defense, it's his mobility. Orchendor is a master of teleportation. Just as you line up a shot with a bow, your only viable option, he vanishes in a puff of purple smoke and reappears on a ledge across the room. Then he teleports behind you, then back to the ledge. He creates a rhythm of disorientation, blinking around the arena constantly. You spend half the fight just spinning your camera, trying to find where the red dot on your compass went. While he's doing this, he is blasting you with high-level destruction spells of his own. He uses Ice Storm, that same slow-moving, multi-hit spell the Wisp Mother uses, and he uses it liberally. In the confined corridors of the Arcanex, there is often nowhere to dodge. The frost slows you down, draining your stamina while he blinks away again, mocking your sluggish movements. Lore-wise, Orchendor is a fascinating figure because of his betrayal. He was once a devout worshipper of Periite, leading the afflicted into Pethardems to wait out the plague or perhaps to incubate it. But somewhere along the line he went rogue. He stopped listening to the Taskmaster. Periite, despite being a Daedric prince, cannot simply reach into Nirn and squash him. Rules of the liminal barriers and all that. So, he hires the Dragonborn as a glorified pest control agent. The relationship between Periite and Orchendor highlights a recurring theme in the Elder Scrolls. The Daedra are not omnipotent. They rely on mortals to execute their will. Orchendor's ability to defy a Daedric prince, to hole up in a fortress and effectively flip off a god, speaks to his power and arrogance. He discovered something in those Dwemer ruins, perhaps some ancient tonal magic or just the sheer tactical advantage of the location that emboldened him. The community has a love-hate relationship with this fight. On one hand, it's frustrating. On the other, it's a brilliant piece of game design because it forces players out of their comfort zones. It challenges the jack-of-all-trades nature of Skyrim leveling. If you specialize too hard, Orchendor punishes you. He is a reality check that asks, what is your plan B? There is also a subtle irony in his race. Wood Elves are typically associated with archery and stealth, the stealth archer archetype we all inevitably become. Yet here is a Bosmer who is a master wizard, immune to magic, fighting in a Dwemer ruin. He breaks every stereotype of his race. Defeating him usually involves a lot of running. You chase him down, you wait for him to teleport, predict his landing spot, and hit him with a power attack before he blinks again. It is a game of whack-a-mole. If you are a warrior, you can eventually brute force him, though his frost spells will make it a slow, painful slog. If you're an archer, it's a sniper duel. When Orchendor finally dies, the sense of relief is palpable. Not just because the fight is over, but because you don't have to listen to the teleportation sound effect anymore. Looting his body gives you the key to the elevator, thank the Divines a shortcut out, and a few standard items. But the real reward comes when you return to Periite's shrine. The prince rewards you with Spellbreaker, the Dwemer shield we mentioned in the previous section. It is the ultimate anti-mage tool, capable of creating a ward that blocks magical damage. It is fitting that you earn it by killing the ultimate anti-mage boss. The cycle is complete. You overcame the immunity to gain the immunity. As we step out of Pethardems, blinking in the sunlight of the Reach, we leave the realm of rogue wizards and disease. We are done with mortals. We are done with those who merely use magic. We are ascending back to the highest peaks, to the ancient ruins where the snow never melts. We are going to face the true masters of magic in Skyrim, the ones who ruled the world when humanity was on its knees. We are going to wake the priests. Leaving the disease-ridden depths of the Reach, we cleanse ourselves in the cold, thin air of the mountaintops. We are hunting for trophies now. We are hunting for the faces of the ancient world. You know the spots: Sheerpoint, Volskige, Skuldavn. You see the curved word wall, hearing the chanting of the Thuum drawing you in. But as you approach to learn the word, the lid of the sarcophagus resting before the wall bursts open. There is no slow crawl here. The occupant rises with a supernatural levitation, hovering just above the ground. He's clad in rotting ceremonial robes, grasping a staff that crackles with elemental fury. And staring back at you is not a face, but a mask. We are facing the dragon priests. These are the lieutenants of the dragons, the lich kings who ruled over mankind in the Merethic era. There are 8 named high priests in the base game, each guarding a specific region, and facing one is akin to fighting a natural disaster contained within a single floating corpse. The combat experience with the Dragon Priest is defined by one word: panic. Unlike the Draugr death overlord who rushes you, the Dragon Priest keeps his distance. He kites you. He hovers backward, moving surprisingly fast while unleashing a relentless barrage of destruction magic. We aren't talking about simple flames or sparks here. We're talking about fireballs that explode with massive splash damage, ice storms that slow you to a crawl, and thunderbolts that drain your magicka instantly. If you encounter Crosis at sheer point early in the game, a very common mistake for explorers, it is a massacre. You might be fighting a dragon at the same time, because Skyrim loves to kick you when you're down. So you have a dragon strafing you with frost breath from above, and Crosis blasting you with fireballs from the ground. It is a sensory overload of explosions and screen shake. The Dragon Priest is also incredibly durable. They cast potent flesh spells like Ebony Flesh or Iron Flesh on themselves instantly, giving them armor ratings that rival heavy plate. If you try to hide behind a rock to heal, they often summon a Storm Atronach to flush you out. It is a battle of attrition where the enemy has infinite magicka and you have a dwindling supply of potions. But the true allure of the Dragon Priest lies in the loot. When you finally shatter their wards and reduce their floating form to a pile of ash, you don't just get gold and gems, you get the mask. Each mask is a unique artifact named after the priest who wore it. There is Volsung, which grants underwater breathing and better barter prices, perfect for the adventurer who loves loot. There is Otar, offering resistance to fire, frost, and shock, the ultimate tank helm. There is Miraak, essential for mages, regenerating magicka at double speed. Collecting these masks becomes an obsession for many players. They are the ultimate collector's items, tangible proof that you have conquered the hardest bosses in the open world. The lore behind these liches is some of the deepest in the game. In the time of the dragon cult, these priests were the absolute rulers of Atmaran society in Skyrim. They kept the peace between dragons and men, demanding tribute and worship. The masks were badges of office, granted by the dragons themselves, imbued with powerful enchantments. There is a fascinating, often overlooked mechanic involving the wooden mask found at Labyrinthian. If you equip this humble, nondescript mask inside the ruined barrow, time literally rewinds. The rubble flies back into place, the snow vanishes, and you stand in the Bromjunar Sanctuary, at the height of the dragon cult's power. Here, you find the bust of the dragon priests. If you place all 8 masks on the shrine, the dragon's mouth opens to reveal the 9th and final mask, Konarrik. The mystery of Konarrik is a favourite topic among lore scholars. The name translates to warlord in the dragon tongue. Unlike the others, there is no specific priest of Konarrik that you fight in the game. The mask is simply the reward. This has led to wild community theories. Was Konarrik a title for the leader of the priests? Was there a 9th priest who was erased from history? Perhaps for betraying the dragons? Or was the mask intended for the strongest among them, a prize they competed for? Some fans speculate that the player, by collecting the masks and claiming Konarrik, effectively becomes the new high priest of the cult, or perhaps the one destined to dismantle it entirely. The mask itself has a unique enchantment. When your health is low, it has a chance to heal you, cast a flame cloak, and, in rare instances, summon a spectral dragon priest to fight for you. It is the ultimate emergency button item. Fighting a dragon priest requires specific tactics. If you are an archer, you need to use the terrain. Hide behind pillars, pop out to shoot, and hide again. The impact perk for destruction mages is once again a lifesaver, as it staggers them out of their casting animation. Melee fighters have it the hardest. You have to sprint through the storm of spells to get close, and even then, the priest floats away. A common trick is to use poisons of magicka damage. If you can drain their blue bar, they're forced to use a dagger, making them significantly less threatening. There is a grim majesty to these encounters. The dragon priests are not mindless monsters. They are the remnants of a civilization that spanned centuries. They chose this undeath. They performed rituals to bind their souls to these withered bodies so they could serve their masters for eternity. When you kill one, you are ending a watch that has lasted for thousands of years. The sound design deserves a mention here too. The dragon priests don't speak in the common tongue, nor do they shout like the Draugr. They make guttural, rasping sounds, and when they cast spells there is distinct, high-pitched charge-up noise that instills a Pavlovian response of fear in veteran players. As you stand in the Bromjunar sanctuary, looking at the empty busts where the masks used to be, now resting in your inventory or on a mannequin in your Hearthfire home, you feel the scale of your journey. You have dismantled the leadership of the dragon cult. But the cult had many branches, and not all threats remained on the mainland. We must now leave the snowy peaks of Skyrim proper. We are travelling east, across the Sea of Ghosts, to the ash-choked island of Solstheim. Here, the influence of the Dragonborn meets the nostalgia of Morrowind. But amidst the ash spawn and the netch, there is an old fort frozen in time, where an imperial general refuses to accept that the war is over. He does not float, and he does not use magic. He uses a hammer and he hits very, very hard. We board the boat at the Windhelm docks, leaving the snow-covered pines of the mainland for the ash-choked wastes of Solstheim. For the veterans among you, this island is a massive nostalgia trip, a love letter to the Blood Moon expansion of Morrowind. But Solstheim isn't just about nostalgia, it's about difficulty. Everything here hits harder, has more health, and seems generally angrier than its mainland counterparts. And nowhere is this clearer than in the ruins of Fort Frostmoth. In the lore of the Third Era, Fort Frostmoth was the bastion of the Imperial Legion on the island. It was a symbol of order in a chaotic land. But 200 years later, after the eruption of Red Mountain, it is a shattered husk, half buried in volcanic ash. Yet lights still flicker in the windows, patrols still march, but they aren't men anymore. They are ash spawn, creatures of dust and magma fused together, and leading them is a ghost from the past, General Falx Carius. General Carius is arguably one of the most tragic figures in the game. If you played Morrowind, you might remember him as the quest giver, a weary but noble Imperial commander trying to keep his garrisons safe from werewolves. He was a hero. In Skyrim's Dragonborn DLC, he is a monster. He died during the Red Year when the volcano erupted, burying the fort, but he didn't stay dead. A Telvanni necromancer named Ildari Sarothril dug him up. She didn't use standard necromancy, she used the unique magic of the island. She replaced his heart with a heartstone, a mineral infused with the power of Red Mountain. This essentially turned him into a super-powered zombie, similar to a Forsworn Briarheart but tankier, angrier, and clad in Imperial steel. When you finally confront him in the depths of the fort, the first thing you notice is the weapon. He wields the Champion's Cudgel, a unique two-handed warhammer with the Imperial Dragon insignia on the head. It is a brutal-looking thing, and it has a Chaos Damage enchantment, which gives it a 50% chance to deal fire, frost, and shock damage simultaneously. The fight with Falx Carius is a rude awakening. He is level-scaled, but he has a massive health pool and hits like a runaway cart. Because of the Heartstone, he is incredibly resilient. He doesn't stagger easily. He just walks toward you, swinging that hammer with a terrifying rhythmic efficiency. Smash, smash, smash. He also isn't alone. He summons ash spawn constantly. These things are annoying on their own, throwing fireballs and rushing you with swords. But in the confined space of the general's quarters, they are a nightmare. You're trying to kite the boss, but you keep bumping into piles of ash that suddenly stand up and stab you. The lore implications here are grim. Carius believes the war is still going on. He thinks you and the dark elves of Raven Rock are invaders. In his twisted mind, he is still protecting the fort, still serving the Empire. He writes letters to the Imperial city that will never be sent, asking for supplies that will never come. It's a heartbreaking depiction of dementia and duty twisted by dark magic. Fans have long debated the nature of his existence. Is the real Falx Carius in there? Is his soul trapped in the Heartstone watching his body commit these atrocities? Or is he just a husk, a biological puppet with Carius's memories downloaded into it? The way he yells threats about the enemies of the Empire suggests a fragment of the man remains, frozen in his final moments of desperate defense against the Ash. From a gameplay perspective, Carius is a stat check. There's no puzzle to solve, no special shout to use. You just have to outdamage him before he turns you into paste. His hammer ignores a chunk of your armor rating, a hidden perk of Warhammers, so even heavy armor builds feel squishy against him. Blocking is risky because the elemental damage from the cudgel bleeds through the block. The environment works against you too. The room is filled with rubble and oddly placed furniture. It's very easy to get stuck on a chair or a piece of masonry while backpedaling, giving Carius the opening he needs to land a power attack. And if that power attack triggers the Chaos enchantment, you might see your health bar vanish instantly. The strategy here often devolves into cheese. Many players lure him out of the room, using the fort stairs to mess up his pacing. Others use the slow time shout to get in free hits. But the most effective tactic is often to target the Heartstone. Not literally, you can't pickpocket it like a Briarheart, but thematically. You focus fire. You ignore the ash spawn minions as best you can and pour every ounce of DPS into the general. When he finally falls, he crumbles. The Heartstone stops glowing. The ash spawn usually despawn or become easy pickings. Looting his body grants you the champion's cudgel. It's a fantastic weapon, not just for its damage, but because you can disenchant it to learn the chaos damage enchantment, arguably the best weapon enchantment in the game for raw damage output. Putting chaos damage on a Stalrim weapon, which boosts frost enchantments, creates a game-breakingly powerful tool. But holding that hammer feels heavy in more ways than one. You've just put down an Imperial hero who was denied his rest. You've ended a 200-year watch. The silence of Fort Frostmoth returns, save for the howling wind and the distant rumble of the volcano. We leave the ash and the tragedy of the old soldier behind. We must return to the mainland, but we aren't going to the warm embrace of the sun. We are heading for an island off the northern coast, a place of gothic spires, gargoyles and perpetual gloom. We're trading the dusty undead for the sophisticated blood-drinking kind. We're going to Castle Volkihar to crash a family reunion that has gone horribly wrong. We leave the ash-choked grimness of Solstheim and return to the Sea of Ghosts, steering our vessel toward the misty, ice-locked northwestern coast of Skyrim. Here, rising from the freezing waters like a jagged tooth, stands Castle Volkihar. It is a place of gothic grandeur, a cathedral of stone and gargoyles that screams bad things happen here. We are here to confront the patriarch of the Volkihar clan, the oldest and most powerful vampire faction in Skyrim, Lord Harkon. If General Carius was a tragedy of duty, Lord Harkon is a tragedy of ego. When you first meet Harkon, he exudes a chilling aristocratic charisma. He isn't a feral monster hiding in a cave. He is a king in his own court, surrounded by thralls and sycophants. He offers you a choice, the gift of his blood to become a vampire lord yourself, or banishment. Regardless of your choice, the road inevitably leads back to this cathedral for a final showdown over the fate of the sun itself. Harkon's plan, the Tyranny of the Sun, is one of the most ambitious and frankly controversial plots in the Elder Scrolls lore. He wants to use Auriel's bow and the blood of a daughter of Coldharbour, his own daughter Serana, to permanently blot out the sun. This would allow vampires to walk freely during the day, ruling over mortals as cattle. This brings us to our major community debate. For years, players have pointed out the glaring logical flaw in Harkon's master plan. If you block out the sun, the plants die. If the plants die, the animals die. If the animals die, the humans starve. If the humans die, what exactly are the vampires going to eat? Harkon is essentially planning a slow, agonizing mass suicide for his entire species. Fans often categorize Harkon not as a genius mastermind, but as a delusional narcissist so blinded by his desire for dominance that he forgot the basic food chain. He is the ultimate boomer dad who refuses to listen to his daughter's logic. But regardless of his questionable planning skills, Harkon is a terrifying combatant. When you face him in the cathedral of the castle, he doesn't fight like a man, he transforms. The Vampire Lord form is a grotesque masterpiece of design. He sheds his noble robes and expands into a hulking, grey-skinned humanoid bat with wings and talons. He hovers above the ground, moving with a supernatural grace that is unnerving to watch. The fight is a multi-stage spectacle. Harkon is a master of blood magic. He flings balls of red energy that drain your health and transfer it to him. He summons gargoyles from the stone statues lining the room to swarm you. He turns into a cloud of bats to reposition, blinking across the vast chamber instantly. But the defining mechanic of this fight is his invulnerability shield. Periodically, Harkon will retreat to the blood fountain in the centre of the room, encasing himself in a barrier of swirling blood magic. While inside, he regenerates health rapidly. Standard weapons bounce off this shield. Spells fizzle. The only way to break it is to use the very weapon he coveted, Auriel's bow. You have to equip the bow, load it with sun-hallowed arrows and fire directly at the barrier. The explosion of holy light shatters his defense, staggering him and leaving him vulnerable. It creates a cinematic rhythm to the fight, a dance of dodging blood magic, clearing gargoyles, and landing that perfect light-infused shot. If you are a vampire yourself, this fight is a duel for the crown. It's Vampire Lord versus Vampire Lord, a clash of claw and magic. If you sided with the Dawn Guard, it's the ultimate vampire hunter fantasy, Van Helsing facing Dracula. Lore-wise, Harkon is a pure-blooded vampire. This means he didn't get the disease from a bite, he got it directly from the source. In a pact with Molag Bal, the Daedric Prince of Domination, Harkon sacrificed 1,000 innocents to earn his status. This makes him terrifyingly powerful and seemingly immortal. The term Daughter of Coldharbour applies to female purebloods like Serana and her mother Valerica, who survive a horrific ritual of submission to the prince. Harkon's power is derived from the darkest corners of oblivion. There is an obscure, creepy detail in the room during the fight. If you look at the shrines and the decor, you realise this cathedral was once dedicated to a different god, likely Arkay or even Mara, before being desecrated and repurposed for Molag Bal. The very ground you walk on is corrupted. The fight can be incredibly chaotic. Harkon's mistform makes him slippery. Just as you wind up a power attack, he dissolves and reappears behind a pillar. He summons skeletons and undead to clutter the battlefield, and he talks. Constantly. He taunts you. He taunts Serana, spewing venom about power and birthright. It makes landing the killing blow incredibly satisfying. When Harkon finally dies, he doesn't just fall over, he explodes. The dark magic holding him together fails, and he bursts into a pile of red ash and blood. It's a messy, visceral end to a messy, visceral family drama. Looting his remains yields his sword, simply called Harkon's sword. It's a unique katana that absorbs health, magicka, and stamina, but only if wielded by a vampire. It's a fitting legacy, a weapon that only works for a parasite. You also get his vampire royal armour, which comes with a cape, a rarity in Skyrim, and excellent magicka regeneration buffs. Standing in the silent cathedral, with the red ash on the floor and Serana standing over her father's remains, you feel the weight of the Dawnguard storyline close. You saved the sun. You saved the world from an ecological collapse caused by an egomaniac. But Harkon's obsession with power led him to traffic with forces beyond the mortal plane. To understand the true depths of necromancy and the fate of souls, we have to go where he tried to send his wife and daughter. We have to enter the Soul Cairn, and there, hidden in the purple gloom, waits a boss that the game doesn't even tell you about. A boss that makes the ideal masters look like passive observers. We are hunting the Reaper. The portal in Valerica's study swirls with a nauseating mix of violet and black. Stepping through it feels like walking into a freezer that smells of ozone and old dust. We have left Nirn behind. We're in the Soul Cairn. This is arguably the most depressing location in the entire Elder Scrolls franchise. The sky is a bruised purple, constantly rumbling with silent lightning. The ground is a cracked wasteland of grey dust and dead trees, and everywhere there are souls, faint, shimmering outlines of people who are trapped in black soul gems, wandering aimlessly, bargaining with the silent floating crystals known as the Ideal Masters. Most adventurers rush through this place. You find Serana's mother. You fight the dragon Durnavir, and you get out as fast as possible because the constant ambient noise of moaning souls is frankly a buzzkill. But if you rush, you miss the secret. You miss the executioner who waits in the dark. You miss the Reaper. The Reaper is the definition of an Easter egg boss. The game does not give you a quest marker for him. Serana doesn't mention him. The Ideal Masters don't issue a challenge. He is a rumour, a ghost story whispered among the dead. To find him, you must first become a scavenger. Hidden beneath the massive floating crystals that drain your health, if you stand too close, there are chests. Inside 3 specific chests scattered across the vast mapless wasteland of the cairn, you find Reaper gem fragments. They look like unpolished, jagged rubies. Once you have all 3, a task that usually requires a wiki guide or hours of aimless wandering, you must find the Reaper's lair. It's a nondescript, ominous black building on the edge of the map. It looks like a mausoleum that grew out of the ground like a tumour. You enter, and you're in a small enclosed arena. In the centre there is a pedestal. You place the fragments. The room shakes. Green slime drips from the ceiling. And then he manifests. The Reaper is a terrifying visual. He uses the model of a giant executioner, similar to the one who almost chopped your head off in Helgen, but he is wreathed in shadow and smoke. He wears the iconic black hood, his eyes glowing with red malice. He wields a massive iron battle axe, and he doesn't come alone. As he spawns, bonemen rise from the floor, skeletal archers and warriors that clutter the small room. The fight is a claustrophobic brawl. The Reaper hits hard, his axe cleaving through armour. But his most disturbing attack is a familiar one. He vomits on you. Yes, he reuses the acid spew mechanic of the afflicted we met in Bethardems, spraying a stream of corrosive green bile that poisons you and blocks your vision. It is grotesque and shocking, contrasting sharply with his hooded, grim Reaper aesthetic. Lore-wise, the Reaper is a complete enigma. There are no books about him, no dialogue explains his origin. This has led to wild speculation in the lore community. The prevailing theory is that he is a manifestation of the Ideal Master's will, a cleaner or warden designed to punish souls that get too unruly. He is the jailer of the ultimate prison. Another, more tragic theory suggests he was a mortal executioner who trapped so many souls in the cairn during his lifetime, perhaps using an enchanted axe, that when he died, the Ideal Masters granted him a position of power. He spent his life sending people to this hell, so now he rules a small corner of it. He is the personification of the executioner archetype, stripped of humanity and left only with the axe and the hood. The fight highlights a specific danger in the Soul Cairn, the environment itself. While fighting him, you might step into the dark spots of the room, which can drain your health if you aren't careful. The lack of space means kiting is difficult. You have to face him head on, dodging the bile and parrying the axe swings. However, we have to drop a reality check here. For all the build-up, the hidden fragments, the secret lair, the terrifying appearance, the Reaper is often criticised for being a bit of a glass cannon. If you arrive here at a high level, which you usually are by the time you start Dawnguard, you can often burst him down in seconds. A dual-casting destruction mage or a sneaky dagger assassin can end the fight before the bonemen even finish their spawning animation. And the loot? Well, let's just say the Ideal Masters are stingy. You usually get 3 empty black soul gems and a Daedra heart. It's practical, sure. Black soul gems are useful. But for a secret boss fight, many players expect a unique weapon or a piece of armour. Instead, you get the crafting components. It's a very Soul Cairn reward. Cold, functional, and devoid of joy. But despite the underwhelming loot, the encounter sticks with you. It's the ritual of it. The gathering of the fragments feels like putting together a key to a forbidden door. And standing in that dark, silent mausoleum, watching the shadowed figure dissolve back into the void, you feel a sense of trespass. You woke something up that was meant to stay sleeping in the dark. As we step back through the portal, leaving the purple skies and the silent lightning behind, we take a deep breath of clean, cold Skyrim air. We are done with the dead, the undead, and the spirits. We are returning to the land of the living, but the living things in Skyrim are evolving. As the Dragonborn grows in power, so do the dragons. We aren't hunting the standard brown dragons you killed at the Western Watchtower anymore. We're looking for the apex predator. We're looking for a dragon that only appears to those who have truly mastered the game. We leave the Soul Cairn and the haunted depths of Solstheim behind, returning to the open skies of Skyrim. The sun is shining, the birds are singing, and you, the Dragonborn, are likely feeling invincible. You're wearing armour made from the bones of demons. Your sword captures souls. You have shouted trolls off mountains and eaten 50 wheels of cheese in a single sitting without indigestion. You've stopped looking at the sky with fear and started looking at it with a bored expectancy. Oh, another blood dragon, you yawn. Let me just swat this mosquito. But then you hit level 78, and suddenly the sky darkens with a shadow that is larger, faster, and far more terrifying than anything you have seen before. You hear a roar that sounds less like a reptilian hiss and more like a tectonic plate shifting. You look up, expecting the usual green or bronze scales, but instead you see a creature of nightmare. Its scales are a deep abyssal black and purple, twisting like a bruise. Its horns ram backwards, curved and massive, but it's the eyes that make you freeze. Dozens of them, compound eyes like a fly, arranged in a horrific cluster along the side of its head. You have just met the legendary dragon. This is not a boss you find in a dungeon. This is a boss that finds you. Introduced with the Dawnguard DLC, the legendary dragon is the apex predator of the random encounter table. It is Bethesda's way of saying, "So, you think you've beaten the game? Try this." The core in-game fact here is the level gate. The legendary dragon has the highest level requirement of any random enemy spawn in the game. They will not appear until the player character reaches level 78. This makes them a status symbol. Encountering one is proof that you have grinded, quested and skill spammed your way to the absolute peak of mortal potential. It is the final exam for your character build. When the fight starts, you realise immediately that the rules have changed. The legendary dragon has a health pool that is simply offensive. We're talking over 4,000 hit points. For comparison, Alduin, the World Eater, the final boss of the main quest, has significantly less health than a legendary dragon on standard difficulties. You can hit this thing with your strongest attack, a stealth archer sneak attack with a Daedric bow, and watch the health bar barely flinch. It laughs at your DPS. But it's not just a sponge, it hits back. The legendary dragon uses the highest tier of fire or frost breath, dealing massive damage that can melt even capped resistance builds. But its signature move, the one that causes panic, is the shout Drain Vitality. This isn't the weak version you might have learned. When a legendary dragon hits you with this, your screen turns a sickly purple. Your health, magicka, and stamina all begin to plummet simultaneously. There is no resisting it with armour. It's a direct drain on your resources. Suddenly you can't sprint, you can't power attack, you can't cast healing spells. You're a sitting duck while this flying tank circles around for another pass. The physical damage is equally brutal. A bite from a legendary dragon is essentially an execution move for light armour wearers. If you get too close to the head, you risk triggering that cinematic kill cam where the dragon simply picks you up in its jaws and shakes you like a ragdoll before tossing you aside. It's a humbling experience for a level 80 demigod to be treated like a chew toy. Lore-wise, the existence of legendary dragons implies something terrifying about the dragon hierarchy. We know that dragons grow stronger with age. A brown dragon is young, a blood dragon is older, an ancient dragon is, well, ancient. But a legendary dragon? These are likely the personal guard of the dragon cult leadership, or perhaps solitary monsters that have been hibernating since the dawn of time, waking up only now because the Dragonborn has become a sufficient threat to warrant their attention. The visual design, particularly those compound eyes, has sparked a lot of discussion in the community. It suggests a divergence from the standard reptile aesthetic towards something more insectoid or alien. Some fans theorize this reflects a connection to the Hist, or deeper older magics of Nirn. Others think it's just Bethesda artists going wild with the cool factor. Regardless, staring into those multiple unblinking eyes while the creature prepares to roast you is high-octane nightmare fuel. Fighting a legendary dragon is a marathon. You cannot just tank and spank. You need to use every tool in your kit. Dragon Rend is mandatory to force it to land, but even on the ground it is dangerous. You find yourself popping potions you've been hoarding for hundreds of hours. Fortify health, regenerate stamina, resist fire. You summon your overlords just to act as distractions. You use the terrain, hiding behind rocks to avoid the breath attacks. There is a specific achievement hunter aspect to this enemy. The achievement legend, one of the rarest on Steam and console platforms, requires you to defeat a legendary dragon. Because of the level 78 requirement, this is often the very last achievement players get. It forces you to engage with the legendary skills system, resetting your skills to 15 to level them up again, just to gain enough XP to reach the spawn threshold. It turns the legendary dragon into a symbol of completionism. One obscure detail that players often miss in the heat of combat is the sound. The legendary dragon has a deeper, more resonant roar than its lesser cousins. The ground shake effect seems amplified. It feels heavy. When it finally crashes to the ground in defeat, the earth tremor is substantial. The death of a legendary dragon is a momentous event. The soul absorption animation plays, the same as any other, but the loot feels sweeter. Dragon bones and scales, of course, but often high-level enchanted jewellery or armour pieces. Yet the real reward is the silence that follows. You have slain the strongest random enemy the game can throw at you. You have proven that you are the true master of the skies. But even a legendary dragon is just a beast. It is a soldier, a warrior. It is not a god. It does not eat worlds. As we stand over the massive purple-scaled corpse catching our breath, we realise that we have been training for one specific moment. We have levelled up, we have geared up, and we have mastered the voice. Now, we must use it. We are going to the one place in Skyrim where the living are not welcome. We're going to the afterlife. We're stepping into the portal at Skuldafn to enter Sovngarde. We're going to meet the firstborn of Akatosh. We're going to meet the end of time. We have conquered the mountains, the crypts, and the skies. We have slain the strongest beasts nature and Bethesda's spawn tables could throw at us. But all of that was merely preparation. All the iron daggers crafted, all the shouts learned, all the dragon souls absorbed. It was all leading to this single moment. We are leaving the mortal plane entirely. We're going to the place where Nords go when they die with a sword in their hand. We're going to Sovngarde. The journey begins at Skuldafn, a temple complex high in the Velathi Mountains, accessible only by flight. It is the one dungeon in the entire game you cannot revisit. It is a one-way trip to the endgame. After fighting through a gauntlet of high-level Draugr and dragons, you step into the portal. The air in Sovngarde is different. It doesn't smell of snow or ash. It smells of pine and mead and eternity. The sky is a breathtaking nebula of swirling colours, a celestial aurora that puts the night skies of Nirn to shame. In the distance, the Hall of Valor glows like a beacon, the whalebone bridge arcing towards it. It is paradise, but there is a rot in paradise. A thick, soupy mist chokes the valley. It is impenetrable, cold, and terrifying. Wandering in it, you find lost souls, stormcloaks, Imperials, perhaps even characters you killed yourself, wandering blindly, terrified. They're being hunted. Shadows sweep overhead. A roar shakes the very foundation of the afterlife. Alduin has arrived. The World Eater is not just another dragon. He is the firstborn of Akatosh, a shard of the time god itself. While other dragons are beasts of domination, Alduin is a cosmic force. His role in the lore is terrifyingly specific. He is the end of the world. In the Nordic mythology, time is cyclical. These cycles are called kalpas. Alduin's job is to eat the current kalpa, literally consume the world, so that the next one can begin. He is the reset button of the universe. But something went wrong. This Alduin, the one we face, has grown arrogant. He has abandoned his duty as the World Eater to play at being a king. He wants to rule the world, not eat it. This dereliction of duty is arguably the only reason he is vulnerable. If he were truly fulfilling his mythic role, he would likely be unstoppable, a force of nature like gravity or entropy. But by choosing to conquer, he made himself small enough to be fought. When you finally reach the Hall of Valor and unite with the three ancient heroes, Gormleth Golden Hilt, Harkon One Eye, and Feldir the Old, you charge out onto the misty plains to confront him. The battle against Alduin is a battle of weather as much as weapons. He uses the mist as a shield, a soul snare to feed on the lost spirits and regenerate his power. To fight him, you must use the Shout Clear Skies, Lokvakur. It is a cinematic back and forth. Alduin shouts the mist into existence, darkening the world. You and the heroes shout it away, bathing the valley in golden light. Ven Mulreek, he roars, and the fog rolls in. Lokvakur, you scream back, and the sun breaks through. It is a shouting match with a god. Visually, Alduin is distinct. He is jagged, spiky, and black as the void. His eyes glow with a malevolent red light. He doesn't just bite and claw. He calls down the apocalypse. His signature shout, Dragonstorm Call, rains burning meteors from the sky. The battlefield becomes a chaotic zone of explosions. You are dodging fireballs, trying to land Dragonren to force him to the ground, all while the epic Nordic chanting of the soundtrack swells to a crescendo. There is a significant community debate surrounding this fight, often referred to as the Alduin disappointment. Many veterans argue that mechanically Alduin is too easy. If you have fought a legendary dragon, like we did in the last section, Alduin's stats can feel underwhelming. He doesn't have the insane health pool or the instant kill drain attacks of the level-scaled monsters. However, this criticism often misses the narrative weight. The fight isn't designed to be a Dark Souls punish fest. It's designed to be an interactive myth. It is about the spectacle. It is about standing shoulder to shoulder with the legends of history, shouting at the apocalypse until it backs down. It is a victory of will. The lore implications of his defeat are profound. When you finally deplete his health bar, Alduin does not die like a normal dragon. There is no skeleton left behind. He writhes in agony, his black scales cracking and peeling away as light bursts from within him. He explodes, dissolving into nothingness. Crucially, you do not absorb his soul. This is a massive point of contention and theory among lore masters. Why didn't the Dragonborn absorb the firstborn? The leading theory is that Alduin is not truly dead. He cannot die. He is an eternal aspect of Akatosh. By destroying his physical form, you haven't killed the World Eater. You have simply reset him. You returned his essence to the time god to be reformatted. He will return inevitably at the true end of time to fulfill his destiny and eat the world. You didn't save Nirn forever. You just bought it another few thousand years. You saved this Kalpa. There is a moment of quiet after the explosion. The sky clears permanently. The meteors stop. Soon the Shield Thane of Shore nods to you in respect. The ancient heroes cheer. It is a moment of pure, unadulterated heroism. You aren't a thief, or an assassin, or a chaotic neutral hoarder in this moment. You are the saviour. But as you accept Zun's shout, calling you back to the land of the living, there is a lingering question. You have defeated the ultimate evil of the main quest. You have saved the afterlife. But back on Nirn, there are still challenges. There are still beings who seek to test you. In fact, there is one warrior who has been watching your progress. He has seen you slay dragons, vampires, and gods. He has done all those things too. He is bored. He is looking for a rival. And unlike Alduin, he doesn't want to rule the world. He just wants a good death. As we fade from the golden light of Sovngarde and materialize back on the snowy peak of the throat of the world, we check our quest log, and there, buried in the miscellaneous objectives, a new marker appears. A tall figure clad in black armour is waiting for us at the last vigil. You have saved the world. You have returned from Sovngarde, the applause of the ancient heroes still ringing in your ears. You walk the streets of Whiterun or Solitude, and the guards finally stop asking about your sweet roll. They look at you with awe. You are the Dragonborn. You have maxed out your skill trees. You have crafted armour so strong it breaks the laws of physics. You have nothing left to prove. The quest log is empty, save for the radiant infinite tasks that offer no real challenge. You are, quite frankly, bored, and then he finds you. You are walking through a city square, perhaps on your way to sell yet another load of dragon bones, when a towering figure approaches. He is clad from head to toe in ebony armour, the black metal gleaming with a dull, dangerous sheen. He is huge, significantly taller than the average Nord, looming over the crowd like a monolith. He doesn't draw his weapon. He doesn't shout. He simply stops in front of you and speaks in a voice that is deep, weary, and utterly calm. "The time has come," he says. "This is the Ebony Warrior." For players who have committed hundreds of hours to a single save file, this moment is electric. The Ebony Warrior is a super boss added in the Dragonborn DLC, but he doesn't appear in Solstheim. He tracks you down in the base game, but only, and this is the key, when you reach level 80. This level gate is massive. It represents a level of dedication that goes far beyond the main story. To see him is to be acknowledged by the game itself as a master. He tells you his story, and it sounds suspiciously like your own. "I have done all that can be done," he recites. "There's nothing left. No quest to be undertaken, no villains to be slain, no challenges to face." He lists his accolades. He has conquered ruin, slaughtered giants, and slain dragons. He is the mirror image of the player, a completionist who has run out of content. But he has one final ambition. He wants a warrior's death. He wants to be sent to Sovngarde, and he has decided that you are the only entity in existence capable of sending him there. He challenges you to meet him at his last vigil, a campsite high in the Velothi Mountains, and then he turns and walks away. The journey to the last vigil feels like a pilgrimage. It is located in a remote snowy pass south of Riften, far from civilization. As you climb the icy slopes, the wind howling around you, you see him waiting. He stands perfectly still, staring out over the province he has conquered. He is not aggressive until you engage. He gives you time to buff, to drink your potions, to prepare your mind. When the fight begins, you quickly realize that the Ebony Warrior is not playing by the same rules as the bandits or even the dragons. He's built like a player character who has exploited the crafting loops. First and foremost, he has the Reflect Blows perk. This is the ultimate Know You card. There is a chance that when you hit him with a melee attack, the damage is reflected back at you. If you have crafted a sword that deals 500 damage and you power attack him, you might instantly kill yourself. It turns your own strength against you, forcing you to be cautious, to heal constantly, or to switch to ranged attacks. He is also a master of the Thuum. He uses unrelenting force to ragdoll you off the cliffside, a taste of your own medicine. He uses disarm to strip you of your weapons. He heals himself with spells when his health gets low, and he has resistance to elemental magic that makes him feel like a brick wall. His equipment is top tier, His sword has a vampire enchantment to absorb your health. His shield blocks elemental damage. His bow can paralyze you. Being paralyzed by the Ebony Warrior is a sentence of death. You watch helplessly as your character stiffens and falls into the snow, while he walks up slowly to deliver the finishing blow. Lore-wise, the Ebony Warrior is an enigma wrapped in a mystery. He is a Redguard. This is a deliberate choice by the developers. Redguards are lore established as the most naturally gifted warriors in Tamriel, descending from the Yokudans and their sword singers. While he doesn't summon a spirit sword, the Shihai, his sheer martial prowess reflects this heritage. However, his desire for Sovngarde has sparked fierce debate in the community. According to lore, Redguards do not go to Sovngarde, they go to the far shores. Sovngarde is specifically for Nords who follow the traditional pantheon. Why does a Redguard want to go to the Nord afterlife? Some fans theorize he's a convert, a man who adopted the culture of Skyrim so completely that he believes in its gods. Others suggest he is simply mistaken, a tragic figure who seeks a paradise he cannot enter. Or perhaps, given his power, the gods will make an exception. If anyone has earned a seat in the Hall of Valor through sheer merit, it is him. There is also a wilder theory that he is an avatar of Ebonarm, an obscure deity of war from Daggerfall lore who was known as the Black Knight. Ebonarm was the enemy of all Daedra, and the Ebony Warrior's dialogue about having no villains left to be slain fits a god of war who has run out of wars. His height, scaled to 1.2 times a normal NPC, supports the idea that he is something more than mortal. The fight at the last vigil is often long and grueling. It is a duel of attrition. You chip away at his health. He heals. You knock him down. He stands up. He shouts you down. You stand up. It feels respectful. There is no villainous monologue, no evil laughter, just the clash of steel and the roar of the voice. When you finally land the killing blow, he drops to his knees. His last words are not a curse, but a sigh of relief. "At last," he whispers, "Sovngarde." It is a poignant moment. You have granted his final wish. But as his soul leaves his body, you're left with a sudden hollow feeling. He was the last challenge. He was the only one who understood what it meant to be this powerful. Now, he is gone. You're truly alone at the summit. Looting his body yields his full set of enchanted ebony armor, a ton of gems, and a Daedra heart. It is a king's ransom, but at level 80 you likely don't need the gold. You take his gear as a memento, perhaps to display on a mannequin in your Hearthfire home, a tribute to the worthiest opponent you ever faced. But wait, as you stand there in the silence of the Velothi Mountains, the wind whipping at your cloak, you remember something. The Ebony Warrior was a mortal who reached the peak of power. He was a challenger, but there is another kind of power in this world, a power that is ancient, eldritch, and tied directly to your soul. You are the last Dragonborn. But the prophecy implies there was a first, far away in the tentacled, green-skied realm of Hermaeus Mora. Someone has been watching you. Someone who also claims the title of Dovahkiin. Someone who has had thousands of years to master the voice, not just 80 levels. The Ebony Warrior wanted a duel. This next enemy wants your soul. We have one final realm to visit. We must open the Black Book. We must let the tentacles drag us into Apocrypha. We're going to meet the original rebel. We're going to meet Miraak. We leave the snowy silence of the last vigil and the honourable death of the Ebony Warrior. But we are not done with Solstheim, and we are certainly not done with Dragonborns. The Ebony Warrior was a rival in strength, but our next foe is a rival in destiny. To find him, we must open a book. Not just any book, but a black book. A thick, heavy tome bound in unknown leather that seems to hum in your hands. You read the page, and the world dissolves. The snow fades, replaced by a nauseating swirl of ink and shadow. You are pulled, literally and metaphysically, into Apocrypha. Apocrypha is the realm of Hermaeus Mora, the Daedric prince of knowledge and fate. It is, without a doubt, the most visually distinct and unsettling location in Skyrim. The sky is a sick, churning green. The ground is made of stacks of paper and black oil. Tentacles writhe from the abyss, grasping at the air. Seekers float by, reading invisible books, while towering lurkers rise from the sludge to vomit ink at you. It is a Lovecraftian nightmare, a library at the end of the universe where knowledge goes to rot. And at the summit of this madness, waiting atop a tower of twisted books and dragon bones, stands Miraak. Miraak is the first Dragonborn. Before you, before the Septim dynasty, before the Riemann Empire, there was him, a dragon priest in the Merethic era, who discovered he had the soul of a dragon. But instead of serving the Dova, he rebelled. He sought to dominate them. He turned to Hermaeus Mora for the power to do so, and in exchange, he became a prisoner of this realm for thousands of years. Now he wants out, and he needs your soul to pay the toll. The rivalry with Miraak is personal in a way no other antagonist in the game achieves. Alduin wants to eat the world. He doesn't care about you specifically. Harkon wants to block the sun. You are just in the way. But Miraak trolls you. Throughout the Dragonborn DLC, after your first encounter, Miraak begins to manifest in your game. When you kill a dragon in the wild, fighting hard, using your potions, earning that victory, Miraak's spectral form appears just as the dragon dies. "I am growing stronger," he taunts, and then he absorbs the dragon soul. Your soul, the one you earned. This mechanic infuriated players when the DLC launched. It wasn't just a plot point, it was theft. He was stealing your currency, your progression. It made you hate him not because the game told you to, but because he was actively hindering your character growth. It built a genuine grudge that fueled your desire to climb his tower and punch him in his mask. When you finally reach the summit of Apocrypha, the scale of the encounter is breathtaking. You don't walk into the arena, you fly into it. You must use the Bend Will shout to tame a dragon, Saratar, and ride him up to Miraak's sanctum. It is the only time in the game where dragon riding feels integral to the narrative rather than a clunky gimmick. Miraak awaits you in a circular arena surrounded by a sea of toxic, acidic ink. He's flanked by two other dragons, Cruciakrel and Relonikiv. He wears a unique mask that looks like a tentacled sea creature cast in bronze, and his robes are tattered, shifting with the winds of oblivion. The fight is a 4-stage spectacle of endurance. Miraak is a mirror of the player. He uses the Thu'um fluently. He shouts Cyclone to launch you into the air. He uses Dragon Aspect to clothe himself in spectral armor, increasing his power. He wields a sword that looks like a solidified tentacle, which lashes out to whip you with poison damage. But the defining mechanic of this duel is his cowardice, or perhaps his survival instinct. You fight him, you whittle his health down, you feel like you have him on the ropes, and then, just before he dies, he turns ethereal and teleports to the center pool. He shouts, "Zil los di du, your soul is mine to devour." He doesn't target you, he targets one of his own dragons. He absorbs the soul of his servant instantly, refilling his health bar to 100%. He does this 3 times. He sacrifices Saratar, the dragon who brought you there, and his other 2 minions. It is a display of absolute dominance and ruthlessness. To Miraak, dragons are not majestic beasts or terrifying enemies. They are batteries, they are health potions. Lore-wise, Miraak's existence rewrites what we know about the Dragon War. He possessed the power to stop the dragons millennia ago. The Nord heroes, Gormleth, Harkon, Feldir, came to him, begging for his help to defeat Alduin. Miraak refused. He had his own plans. He believed he could conquer the dragons and the world on his own terms. His hubris is what allowed the dragon cult to rule as long as it did. He is the dark reflection of the player, a Dragonborn who chose power over duty. The community loves to debate the what-ifs of Miraak. If he hadn't been trapped in Apocrypha, could he have defeated Alduin? His mastery of the voice seems superior to almost anyone else's. His bend will shout is terrifying. It forces the stones, the beasts, and even the dragons to obey him. It is mind control on a cosmic scale. Some fans theorize that Miraak is actually the true master of the voice, having had thousands of years to study under Hermaeus Mora, while the last Dragonborn is just a gifted amateur. The environment of the fight is treacherous. The pools of ink in the arena deal massive poison damage. If Miraak shouts you into them, you panic, scrambling back to the stone while your health melts away. The lighting is shifting and weird, making it hard to judge distances, and all the while Hermaeus Mora watches. The giant wretched eye of the Daedric prince opens in the sky, observing the duel of his champions. The climax of the fight is one of the most memorable scripted events in Skyrim. When you finally deplete Miraak's health for the 4th time and he has no more dragons to eat, he tries to escape. He tries to hide in the ink, but Hermaeus Mora is done with him. "Did you think you could escape me, Miraak?" the prince booms in that slow, unskippable, drawling voice. A massive tentacle spikes Miraak through the chest, lifting him into the air. The first Dragonborn doesn't die by your hand, he's executed by his master. "He can be replaced," Mora sneers. It is a chilling reminder that in the grand scheme of the Daedra, even a Dragonborn is just a pawn. Miraak dissolves, his skeleton dropping to the floor. As he dies, he passes on his knowledge. You absorb his soul, and with it the souls of all the dragons he stole from you. It is a massive payday of dragon souls, usually enough to unlock every shout you have been saving. Looting Miraak yields some of the most unique gear in the game. His mask increases your magicka by a massive amount. His robes absorb spell absorption. His sword, Miraak's sword, has the highest base damage of any one-handed weapon in the game, depending on your level, and poisons enemies with every hit. And his staff sprays a carpet of writhing tentacles on the ground to slow and poison foes. Standing on the summit of Apocrypha, reading the Black Book to return to Solstheim, you feel a shift in the balance of power. You are now truly the only Dragonborn. You have cleaned up the loose ends of history. You have surpassed the first. But as you materialize back in the familiar ash-covered reality of Solstheim, there is one final secret on this island. A secret that has nothing to do with dragons or prophecies or Daedric princes. It is a secret buried in ice. A throne that has sat empty since the days of Morrowind's Blood Moon expansion. You have defeated the first Dragonborn. You have defeated the World Eater. But can you defeat a Ghost King who hits harder than both of them combined? We have one last stop. We're going to the Glacial Cave. We're going to summon Karstaag. We have reached the end of the line. We have traversed the breadth of Skyrim, from the golden tundra of Whiterun to the alien green skies of Apocrypha. We have slain gods, kings, and ancient heroes. The quest log is empty. The map is filled with cleared markers. But there is one final secret, buried deep in the ice of northern Solstheim, that the game does not tell you about. There is no courier who runs up to you with a letter. There is no rumours option at the inn. To find the 15th and final deadliest enemy, you must be a grave robber. You start by finding an unmarked location called the Glacial Cave. It is a small, unassuming hole in the ice on the northern coast. Inside, guarded by a few reeklings, you find a strange item resting on a ledge, a massive horned skull. It is too big to be human, too humanoid to be a dragon. You pick it up. It is heavy. It is the skull of a king. You take this skull to the Castle Karstaag ruins. If you played the Blood Moon expansion for Morrowind back in 2003, this name sends a shiver down your spine. Karstaag was the frost giant king, a ruler of Solstheim who lived in a fortress of ice. He was killed by the Nerevarine, the protagonist of Morrowind, years ago. Now his castle is a ruin, occupied only by the squawking, blue-skinned goblins known as reeklings. You fight your way through the courtyard, clearing out the little pests until you reach the throne room. It is open to the sky, snow drifting down onto the icy floor. At the far end sits a massive throne of ice. You approach it. A prompt appears. Activate throne. You place the skull on the seat. The ground shakes. This isn't the rumble of a dragon landing, this is an earthquake. A blizzard erupts inside the courtyard, blinding you, turning the screen white. And from the swirling snow he rises, Karstaag reborn. He's a ghost, spectral and translucent blue, but he is colossal. He towers over regular giants. He's a mountain of ectoplasm and rage, and he is, statistically speaking, the single hardest-hitting enemy in the Elder Scrolls. 5th, Skyrim. There is no conversation, no monologue about power. Karstaag simply wants you dead. He punches the ground, and the shockwave sends you flying. If you aren't at the absolute armor cap, 567 rating, a single stomp from Karstaag on higher difficulties can one-shot you. Even with the cap, 2 hits will likely kill you. He deals purely physical damage, but he hits with the force of a runaway train. But it's not just the punches. The blizzard he summons is a constant damage over time effect. Just standing in the arena with him drains your health and slows your stamina regeneration. It also obscures your vision. You're fighting a ghost in a whiteout. You see a blue fist emerge from the fog and suddenly you're dead. The fight with Karstaag is a chaotic, desperate scramble. He has a massive health pool, 4,000 points, regenerating rapidly. Because he is a ghost, he has high resistance to physical damage. Because he is a frost giant, he is completely immune to frost magic. In fact, using frost on him is useless. You need fire, lots of it. Lore-wise, this is a beautiful callback. In Blood Moon, Karstaag was a neutral, somewhat tragic figure, a king whose home was invaded. His return as a ghost suggests a restless spirit, angry that his castle has fallen to ruin and his throne sits empty. The reeklings who infest the ruins likely worship him or fear him, keeping his skull hidden away. By reuniting the skull with the throne, you have performed a necromantic ritual, summoning the old king back to defend his domain one last time. The community discussion around Karstaag often centres on the cheese. Because he is so absurdly strong, almost no one fights him fair. You can't block him. He'll crush your stamina bar and then you. You can't tank him. So, players get creative. They climb the rocks where his paything can't reach. They use the marked for death shout to permanently lower his armor rating until he is made of paper. They use the slow time shout to dodge his blows Matrix style. One of the most popular strategies involves using the impact perk with dual cast fireballs to keep him permanently staggered. It's a battle of rhythm. Cast, stagger, cast, stagger. If you miss a beat, he recovers, closes the distance, and squashes you. It is high-stakes gameplay. Karstaag is also immune to most forms of crowd control. You can't paralyze him. Fusrodar barely makes him stumble. He's an immovable object. The reward for defeating this secret boss is unique and arguably overpowered, yet strictly limited. When Karstaag's ghost finally dissipates, fading back into the snow, you gain a power. Summon Karstaag. This allows you to call his ghost to fight for you. He is, effectively, an I win button. He will decimate dragons, solo giant camps, and crush dungeon bosses. However, there is a catch. You can only use this power 3 times. Not 3 times per day, 3 times ever. This creates a classic gaming paradox known as Elixir Syndrome. Players earn this incredible power, but because it is limited, they never use it. They save it for a harder fight. But you have already beaten the hardest fight in the game to get it. So Karstaag sits in your magic menu, a loaded gun that is never fired, a trophy of your victory over the Ghost King. Standing in the quiet ruins of the castle, the blizzard fading, the reeklings cowering in the corners, you realize the truth. There are no more skulls to find. There are no more hidden peaks. You have faced the biological horrors of the trolls and the psychological horrors of Apocrypha. You have duelled the Ebony Warrior and silenced the World Eater, and now you have put the past to rest on Solstheim. You sheath your weapon. The music settles into that familiar ambient exploration track. The soft strings, the distant wind. You look at your character standing in the snow. They are a mosaic of the journey. They wear the mask of a dragon priest, the armour of a Daedra, the ring of a vampire. They carry the weight of 100 quests. The deadliest enemies in Skyrim are not just sacks of hit points. They are milestones. Each one taught you a lesson. The troll taught you to prepare. The giant taught you respect. The dragon priest taught you fear. And Karstaag taught you that even kings are just ghosts in the end. You turn away from the throne. It is time to go home. Maybe you'll retire to Lakeview Manor, organise your library and watch the sun set over the lake. Maybe you'll finally adopt that dog Miko. Or maybe, just maybe, you'll start a new game. You'll wake up in a cart, hands bound, and hear those famous words, "Hey you, you're finally awake." And you will do it all over again. We have walked the breadth of the province tonight, lore masters. We have climbed the 7,000 steps, descended into the glowing depths of Blackreach and sailed across the Sea of Ghosts. We have faced the teeth, the claws, the magic, and the steel of the 15 deadliest beings to walk, float, or fly in the Fourth Era. Take a deep breath now. Let the tension of the battles fade. The shouts have ceased. The clash of swords has rung its last note. The fire in the hearth is crackling low, casting long, soft shadows on the walls of your sanctuary. The wind outside is just a gentle murmur against the glass, a reminder that you are warm, you're safe, and the danger belongs to the story, not to you. Visualize your character finding a safe tavern, maybe the Sleeping Giant in Riverwood, or the Candlehearth Hall in Windhelm. They unbuckle their heavy armour, setting it aside with a clatter that is dull and heavy. They sit by the fire, stretching out tired limbs, watching the embers glow. The bard is playing a soft instrumental tune, something slow and melancholic. The world of Skyrim continues to turn, the moons Massa and Secunda drifting overhead. Your part in the struggle is done for tonight. You have earned this rest. The dragons can wait. The vampires can wait. The world will still be there when you wake. For now, let the darkness wrap around you like a warm fur cloak. Let your breathing slow to the rhythm of the tavern song. drift away from the frost and the fear into the quiet
leader of the
velvet
rebellion.
dark.
But if they
Sweet
captured you,
dreams